Good afternoon, classmates. Here we are for our week 4 discussion, and it's asking us to develop a video with at least 3 strategies or new ideas that we found helpful in this course. So the first one for me was the instructional grouping. I don't know that I had ever really, formally heard of jigsaw grouping, where we would break up the material into different sections and essentially have a group where each student is going to basically like master that section or that content and then reteach it to their peers that are in their group. And I just think that that's a really neat tool to use because I feel like once you're able to teach something to somebody else, that's where it shows the mastery of that concept or that subject matter. And I like how each student is tested and graded individually, but on the entirety of the material. So it's not like, they can just pick and choose what they want to like focus on. They have to stay engaged with their entire group, and that the teams are temporary. So it like gives students a chance to work with a variety of peers. And I'm long-term subbing right now, and I wish that I would have been, more adept at this concept because for an English language arts, we have a nonfiction text that we're working with, and there's just a lot of material that's in it. And I feel like had I known ahead of time that this was something that I could maybe like work into my strategies, what I could do is put together teams and take apart sections of that book and have them work on like the polar bears, somebody's working on the northern lights, somebody's working on icebergs, or different groups. And within that group, they can kind of like section it out. So I know I have a lot to learn about this, but I just felt like that was a good example of a way that I would be able to implement that, is like taking something that seems not like overwhelming, but kind of daunting, like a lot of material at once to cover, and just breaking it up into those groups, and then in the groups having the little subsections. So I like the idea of the jigsaw grouping. I also liked what we learned about the tips for recognizing learning disorders in the classroom. I think that a lot of them are pretty like common sense, I want to say, but there's things like not living up to potential, not trying hard enough, being off track, hiding out, acting up, missing homework, having timing troubles, getting test stress, being overly emotional, and then of course avoidance. So I think that these are things that, when you're in the class long term, or, you have your own classroom, it is probably easier to identify rather than like when you're working as a sub or like a short-term sub. But I think the biggest thing that I look at with this is it's one thing to know what we're looking for and recognizing these behaviors that could be a tip to show us that this student might have a learning disorder. But I think the second part, which is probably the more difficult part, is figuring out how to then manage talking to administration or staff and also parents to, tread lightly where you're not wanting to overstep your bounds, but also just put it on the radar so that they don't fall further behind. And then the third one were the types of assessments. So I liked that we learned about pre-assessments, formative assessments, and summative assessments. And I think that, being able to eventually be in my own classroom, I can think about how I am going to implement these. I would imagine in the beginning of the school year, I would do a pre-assessment to get a feel for where all of my students are coming into the school year. Those formative assessments I think can be really fun, like a Kahoot or a Socrative quiz. And then the summative assessments, I really like things like presentations and portfolios. So yeah, I think all in all, there were a lot of really great, useful tools that I was able to walk away with after this course. And it is fun being able to be in a long-term sub position, because then I can kind of start to implement things and, see things like happening in real world or real life application. So thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Bye.